It's Taj of the Beat.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guys, gals, and non-binary pals to another episode of All the Above, the show that gives you an unstandardized take on education. I'm Jeffrey Garrett, one of your co-hosts, and I have been a high school social studies teacher, a middle and high school principal, and now coach principals here in the Los Angeles area. And as always, I am joined by
Manuel Rustin, your favorite teacher's favorite teacher. Now, I'm a high school history teacher. This is my 15th year and counting, and this is All of the Above, a show where we take a look at issues in headlines in education because it's not really talked about that much in our mainstream media.
fake news, your organization's terrible.
Yes, we know, Jeff.
Believe me.
We know. So, to our returning viewers, good to see you again. If you are new to our show, look at the About section and you'll see links to all of our sites and our podcast versions and all that so you can listen on the go. Jeff, what's on the agenda today?
Well, Manuel, as usual, we've got a good one for you. And I have to say, one of the things I really love about our show is that we get to talk about issues that you're not going to hear about anywhere else, right? We have for today's seminar, part 2 of our discussion with students. So the great Nadia El-Hawari is back facilitating a conversation with students about their feelings about the pressures and issues surrounding the college process, right? And students thinking about going to a 2-year college versus a 4-year college and what it's like to grow up in a day and age where attending college is more important than ever, both socially and economically for one's opportunity and life outcomes. So great chance to get some valuable perspective from young people themselves. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned and check that out.
Absolutely. But first we have our Do Now, which is when we take a look at recent headlines in education. Okay, now it's time for today's Do Now, where we take a look at recent headlines in education. Jeff, how are we doing the Do Now today?
Well, Manuel, I'm excited because today we have a lexicon. You know, reading is fundamental. We're going to dig into some key terms.
Indeed, up that vocabulary.
That's right. Literacy, folks.
Yeah, so what's the first term?
First term today, Manuel, is shotgun.
Shotgun. So I know that. You call shotgun when you want the passenger seat, when you're like, with your friends and just left McDonald's?
Yeah. Except, no, not that type of shotgun. This type of shotgun might be what you learn to shoot safely if you are a 7th or 8th grader in 2 rural districts in northeastern Iowa. So the North Butler and Clarksville districts recently passed a requirement for mandatory hunter and firearm safety course that's going to be taught through P.E. classes for all 7th and 8th graders in the district. Now, parents do have the option to opt their child out, but interesting in this day and age and political climate that we would see this type of policy being passed. What do you think, Manuel?
Yeah, it's just really a surprising story. My first reaction is like firearm safety in school, in PE, no less. And PE just seems to be like the dumping ground where you teach all sorts of things that aren't actually physical education related. I remember learning how to square dance in PE. So my first reaction was, wow, that's really strange. And gun safety, I get it. There's statistics show when young people encounter guns in their household, bad things happen because they don't really know how guns operate. And teaching gun safety is definitely makes sense. But this is one of those stories of like 2 Americas. Like, this is a rural area. I can't really see this happening in like a urban district like LA or New York.
Yeah. So there is a part of me that wants to like give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, right? Like you said, rural districts, these could be areas where, first of all, there might just be a lot more firearms around that are used for hunting or for sports, or even to, provide food for the family or as part of economic activities. So, that's possible. And the idea that we're talking about firearm safety, like, I'm in favor of people being equipped to be safe, right? In general, in life. On the other hand, it just feels a little bit like a suspicious end around to get to this sort of like let's bring the NRA into the schools and like, propagate guns and gun culture. And the mandate behind this in the schools just makes it political, I think, in a way that that raises some question marks for me. Now, the North Butler superintendent, who's a guy named Joel Foster, he told a local news outlet that the classes are geared towards teaching students how to, quote, use weapons responsibly, how to respect them, and understand it's not a video game, and those sorts of things. And that maybe will cut down on our chances of having a severe incident. So, possibly there's righteous motivation here, but I tell you, it's still just triggering to me in some way. What do you think?
Triggering. Apt choice of words there. Yeah, I think this is, it seems like it might be tiptoeing in the direction of normalizing the idea of guns at schools, which is very political, and people talk about not being political in schools. Schools should be neutral environments, but this is, I think, on the surface, a very political move, inviting gun safety courses onto campus. But this also made me think about a group in Chicago, Ujima Medics, which is a grassroots collective that trains students, trains young people how to be first responders for gunshot victims, because a lot of times by the time the ambulance arrives, it's too late for somebody. So this is a group that goes out and volunteers and trains people on how to react when somebody has been shot and how to give, first aid to that person. Two Americas, learning how to deal with gunshot wounds, and on the other hand, learning, firearm safety, because, maybe firearms are a normalized part of the rural hunting culture there. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. I'll be curious to see what, develops, how many parents do choose to opt out,
right?
That sort of thing.
All right.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, what's our next term for today's lexicon?
All right, Jeff. Next term is whooping.
Whooping, like like back in the olden days, you get out of line and go out back, choose a switch, you get a good whooping. Not that we're condoning child abuse.
Yeah, that's really frowned upon nowadays, Jeff. Yeah. Whooping, so physical punishment of children. We don't do that anymore, unless you're a public school that still uses corporal punishment.
That can't possibly be true, is it?
It is true, Jeff. According to the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, over 106,000 students received some form of corporal punishment at school, at a public school, in 2014, which is the most recent date that this data is available. So it is happening. Whoopings are being had in public schools in certain areas. Now, the number has declined over the years. This is mostly in rural areas and states down south. And spoiler alert, Black and disabled youth are most likely to receive corporal punishment.
You don't say.
I know. I was
Shocking.
Stunned when I saw that.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Couldn't have seen it coming.
Yeah, that's out of nowhere.
Yes.
What's your reaction to this story?
I mean, I'll be honest. When we first started talking about this story, my initial reaction was like, fake news. Like, this can't be real. Let's keep researching, because there's how could this be possible? Now, I grew up in Minnesota, and, corporal punishment is not legal in public schools there. I came up as an educator in New York. Corporal punishment is certainly not legal there.
Right.
And now in Los Angeles, not legal here. So maybe I'm just like outside of that culture and don't understand. But I was shocked that this is legal practice. So 19 states have legalized corporal punishment in public schools. 47 states have legalized corporal punishment in private schools, right? Which is also bonkers. You would pay someone to beat your children for you when you're not there. Not that they don't do other things too, but let's be real. And that the Supreme Court 40 years ago, a little over 40 years ago, actually ruled that corporal punishment is not unconstitutional. So, apparently the Eighth Amendment doesn't necessarily have much weight when it comes to school. So I was just shocked that this could be real.
Yeah.
It's 2018, man. Like, what are we doing?
Apparently, we're whooping kids in some of these states, and it turns out a lot of these areas where this is still happening, mostly down south. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but there was something that happened down south regarding physical punishment of black bodies. I don't quite remember.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably Christopher Columbus brought freedom and.
It was way back.
And
We're not
that.
supposed to. I mean, that's
back when George Washington freed the slaves.
Yeah, yeah. So,
back then.
So it's crazy. It's wild to think that there's corporal punishment happening, and it's not surprising at all that it's most often inflicted on black boys and disabled youth.
Yeah.
But apparently, a lot of parents still find it culturally acceptable to have their kids, if your kid's acting up in class, to get some sort of physical punishment from the teacher or the principal or what have you. So, I mean, again, two Americas I can't fathom.
Yeah, I think to me this definitely does boil down to, though, the idea that schools are an extension of the state. Public schools are, right? And so, even though we often have very communal feelings with our school, schools are an agency and an extension of the state. And so if we're talking about administering corporal punishment in school, we are talking about the state administering physical punishment to children, doing so with disproportionate impact to black students and students of IEPs. And I think, especially in this day and age, the idea that school administrators, and I don't know the data on this being true in these 19 states and the schools that do administer this punishment. But I know in general in this country, school administrators are more disproportionately male.
Right.
And I know also that deans or folks who serve in these disciplinary roles also tend to be disproportionately male. So it means we got a lot of dudes out there putting their hands on students, female students, male students as well, but it just strikes me as there being just so much potential for there to be abusive conduct of one form or another that is, carried out under the guise of corporal punishment. And I just thought this is one of those bad ideas that got swept into the dustbin of history, but apparently not.
Wild, man. It's wild.
Yeah.
All right, so third story. Jeff, what's the third term for today's lexicon?
Well, our third term for today's lexicon, well, you'll be very pleased, is it's good for you. It's nutrition.
Oh, nice. Nutrition. That's, fruits and vegetables and whole grains. Good stuff. Finally, a good, positive story.
Yeah, exactly, except not at all. So one would think about those things when you think about nutrition, but we're talking about nutrition as in the School Nutrition Association, which sounds like a lovely, civically engaged group of parents and retired grandparents who just want to do what's right and
I love those. That's good.
Grow kale in the community garden.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, but let me read to you some of the members of the School Nutrition Association. Recently praised by Donald Trump and the Republican administration after the administration eased up some Obama-era regulations around things like salt, fat, and processed grains in food. But let me read you the members. It includes folks like Domino's Pizza, PepsiCo, Kellogg's, Kraft Heinz Company, and others.
Well,
yeah.
That doesn't sound very nutritious at all, Jeff.
So, Manuel, what's going on here?
I feel like I've been hoodwinked. School Nutrition Association does not sound very nutritious at all.
Not so much.
So they're happy that the Trump administration has rolled back some of those Obama-era guidelines regarding school nutrition. And, their spokesperson said that, a lot of students are unhappy with their options, and this is a good move because it allows, basically it's responsive to student and family needs. Which is a bunch of BS because it's not really about what the students want. It's about what these big corporations want. And these big corporations want to be able to provide food to schools and districts that comes out of the same plants that their other processed, highly unnutritious food comes out of. And it's a lot cheaper to do that if you don't have to differentiate based on nutritional guidelines. That's terrible because our youth, statistics show that young people have a really serious problem with weight and nutrition. And here we are making it easier for companies to get this not wholesome at all junk right in front of our kids to make some money off them.
Yeah. Yeah, so apart from the just sort of naked corruption that's on display here, I also think there's two very relevant to education and learning issues that we need to think about here. So one is this article in the LA Times by David Lazarus, which kind of broke this news recently. 1 in 5 young people in this country is considered to be obese at this point, right? So that's a staggering figure. And we know that has all kinds of adverse long-term health prognoses for these young folks. Secondly, these are kids who are in school, right? Childhood obesity has social and emotional consequences on kids' development, and also poor nutrition has huge learning consequences. So you're a teacher. I've been in the classroom. I'm still in schools on a very regular basis, and I know the difference between a kid who comes to school having had, Pepsi and hot Cheetos versus a kid who's come to school and had, a balanced meal, right? And so any parent out there or aunt or uncle out there or someone who's been a babysitter out there knows the difference between kids who've just eaten a big stack of Halloween candy and kids who had like an apple for a snack, right? Like, this is not complicated science. Like, these things have impacts on students' ability to learn, their ability to function normal socially, the ability to regulate their behavior, all kinds of stuff that I don't see how this can have a positive impact on learning. And my strong suspicion is this is going to have a decidedly negative impact on learning for most kids. So, interesting story on a lot of levels, but it makes me concerned for our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Obamas were trying to tell us what to eat, Jeff, and now here we are. Trump is letting us know we don't have to go with that anymore. So these companies, green light.
Yeah.
Wow.
Reagan took the solar panels off the roof, and Trump put the salt and sugar back in the lunch.
Man.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So that about does it for today's Do Now. And up next, we have part 2 of a discussion that began in episode 4, where we brought students into a school library to hear from them and their perspectives on various issues. And today, these students are going to tell us a little bit about their perspective of being students at a time when going to college is sort of the expected norm. And they're going to talk about the pressures to go to college and just the whole navigational aspect of it. So stay tuned for that.
Now it's time for today's seminar. As you can see, I am not Jeff and I am not Rustin. My name is Nadia Ahuari. You may recognize me from another episode where I talked about challenging white supremacy within curriculums, within schools. Here I am again, moderating a really, really powerful discussion with some really dope high school seniors. Many of us educators and policymakers have so much to say around schools and education, but it's so essential to have students' voices at the center of these topics and the centers of these issues. With that, let's begin with some intros. If you can just start off.
Hi, I'm Leela.
I'm Reggie.
Hi, I'm Emily.
I'm Trey.
I'm Brandon.
Hi, I'm Kelsey.
All right, and our first question is just, how do y'all feel about the idea that you're supposed to go to college after you graduate?
I believe that the pursuit of college or just attending a college degree is a great foundation just to set up your life, just to be stable, getting a steady check and stuff like that.
I disagree with that for a couple of reasons. One, I know a lot of college students who graduated, who have a college degree, who haven't really haven't had the chance to the opportunity to even do what they have their degree in. And there's been a lot of times where kids fell out of college and then they have debt and then they don't have anything to show for it. I don't know, for me, out of high school, I think I'm gonna go to the military for a couple of reasons. One, I steady paycheck, job security, and just a lot of reasons why college is not for me. And I feel like that's looked down upon in school. Like, they push college so hard that even when you say you want to go a different route and you know a lot about that route, they get mad and they kind of deter you from it, and they keep giving you reasons on why you shouldn't go there. And I feel like that's not how the school should be. If that's what you want to do, they should help you as much as they can in that way to get where you want to go.
Yeah, to hop on that subject, I don't want to go to college for the reason because the school I want to go to is not really a normal school. We're an art school, just like Emily, she's an artist herself, and I want to go to the school because like that's just what I don't want to work a 9 to 5 because school already feels like a 9 to 5 to me. So I just don't want to go and like sit there and like think for the rest of the day like, why am I doing this job when I could be doing something better, when I could be doing something that I actually love. So it's like I'm not gonna just sit here and waste my time in a class while someone's reading to me off of something they wrote. And then they like, cause professors, some of them don't even really know how to teach, aren't they?
They're not teachers.
Yeah, they're just like they read off of like stuff they wrote.
After what Trey says, like I'm personally an artist. Like ever since I was 4, I knew I wanted to be an artist. And when I bring that up, even as an elementary like kid, a lot of teachers would be like, "Oh, that's not a real job. Just tell me that straight up." Or painting's not a real job. And then like middle school, I didn't really think about that much as a career because I was told over and over again it wasn't a job. Until high school, I realized that's 100% what I want to do. And then I wasn't even planning on going to college because I thought college was just going to be telling me the same stuff until I discovered art college. And that's a school where like I don't have to take science classes and math courses, and I could just focus 100% on my craft. And then when I started coming out, I was like, yeah, I want to go down the art college route. I was getting so much like zero support from like some staff, or like saying like, oh, that's not a real college, you shouldn't do that, you need to go get a real degree. And you know, it kind of went back to my parents' relationship. Is like same thing. They like for a while they thought it wasn't a good route until like, I showed them 100%. That's what I'm committed to. But even today, when I'm applying, it's really hard to get help. I have to do a lot of things myself. I have to do a lot of like internet research and how to do it myself. I have to go out of my way to like talk to people how to get art college. Because like when I go to the career center here, or I try to talk to my like counselor, not my counselor, like my school counselor, or one of my other academic counselors, she would always persuade me like, why don't you just go to UC or Cal State LA? Because your grades are great. Like you might as well just use what your grades have. But like just because my grades are good, like I don't want to let that define. I want to be an artist. Like that's 100% what I want to be.
And I feel like they want you to go the safe route of college. Mm-hmm. Like they don't want you to take the risk of being an artist because who knows what you're gonna do. They want to send you on the route that they know, the route that they've been taught to tell you, which is go to college, collect debt, graduate, and maybe get a job.
And isn't it weird how it's like normal to like laugh, oh yeah, I can't wait to be a broke college student, because everyone's like so used to like saying that, but that's like a really toxic stigma around it. Like saying, oh, I'm not gonna eat for a couple of days because I gotta get these books. Like why is that even an option? Like I know kids in college right now, like she wasn't eating for a while. Like she lost her swipes for her food to go to the cafeteria, and she just didn't even bring it up to me for a while. And I was just like, how long has this been? She's like, oh, like 2 weeks. So 2 weeks she wasn't getting like a full meal. She got to like hustle herself to get a meal. That's like so crazy to me because she's in a great university, but like she wasn't eating. So that entire thing just blew my mind.
Well,
And that could lead to a lot of stuff.
This misconception of college, pursuing college will be dead. I personally believe that if you, of course, apply to scholarships, grants, if you're in a situation where you can get money, of course, go to college. But my thing is, like, if everybody says, well, people always tell us, like, oh, okay, go to college, it's secure, it's a safe route, right? Well, I understand that you may not want to pursue college, and I understand it's not for everyone, but I'm just saying in terms of networking with people and finding opportunities to be able to up your livelihood and, you know, just be secure and have a foundation of living, then why not do it?
I feel like you can network anywhere you can go.
And I just feel like a lot of teachers think that's like the picture perfect life that you have to go by. Like you come to school for how many years, you stay in school, and then you go to school again. After you leave high school, which is like the bare minimum. And then you're over here struggling for food, struggling to get money, to stay healthy, let alone. And you don't even get anything out of it. You just get a piece of paper, and if that paper can't decide if that's not going to be like, oh, I'm definitely going to get a job after this, just to pay off these student loans. Then I can live after that. Like then I can actually travel or do what I actually want to do.
And it's saving my money to retire.
Yeah.
Like that just the end goal of the American dream, is just to like stay broke, save your money up, then retire and just finally, that's when you get to like rest. It's like when I'm 65, I have my money and I can like set. But then again, I'm 65, what am I gonna do? Like that's just like waiting. That's waiting
Say
so long.
you took the safe route, then when you are 65, you're like, damn, well, that was my dream, and I didn't do it. I went to college.
Yeah, now about it.
Yeah, that's why
Like,
all that time and money that you just wasted, like you can never get your time back. Like that's one thing you can just always.
Time waits for no man.
Yeah.
So in my own experience, I definitely understand what you're saying, Reggie, and I understand what all of you are saying. I would say college to me is also the experience. So besides money, besides all of that, like it's also like a time in your life. You're probably 18 when you graduate and you head to somewhere that you can get an experience to grow, to find yourself, whatever that you choose to do with that. So I would like agree with Reggie and kind of like push back on some of the points on like, well, there's a different perspective to it. It might not be a waste of time. You know, mine was like me getting out the hood and going to experience something new 6 hours away from home.
Yeah, like I want to do that too, because it's like ever since like when I was a little girl, like my parents always pushed like Lila, education is the way to like make it out. So I always tried my best in school. So like kind of the closer I am to like finishing my college, as I am kind of viewing college as a scam because of like being in debt. But at the same time, it's like I want to take this opportunity that I have to continue my education. So like, yeah, I agree with Reggie. Like, I'm going to network to try to find these scholarships to kind of alleviate myself this stress for debt. And I'm learning from like my siblings' mistakes of the way like they took like with education and how much like they struggled. But then like I also have a brother who just went straight out of high school to the military, and so did my dad. So I'm using like that, like how Brandon, he wants to go just like straight to the military. That's my backup plan. Like if this don't work out, I'm gonna fall back like on the Air Force or like going into the Navy. Like, but I at least want to try the education route. And if it's not for me, it's not for me. And at least I have something to fall back on.
My thing is just like, through a higher education, if you attain that, no one can take that away from you. They can take away everything that you have, anything that you own, but they cannot take away your education of what you learned and what you can do to apply that to your daily life. So like Nadia said, like it's not just getting a degree and, you know, all this other stuff, but like through the experience, you know, you find yourself in situations where you can apply some of that studies and, you know, philosophy and all these perspectives into real life.
I feel personally like it's not the only way you can experience like new surroundings. Like, yeah, most of the time when you grow up in a public school area and you go to a public school, you grow up with the same people. You go to the same school like for years on end with the same people. You go 4 years to somebody in high school and you stay in that route. Like you stay with these people, you know these people, you're comfortable with these people. And once you go into college, you just get hit with culture and you get hit with all these new experiences that you've never had before. And yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just feel like you could find it in a lot of places and not just a college or going to school.
I feel like a lot of people always find their way going back to education because there are like
have to though.
Yeah, like cause the way society is set up, like they kind of want that like that self-achievement in a way, because there are like a bunch of paths that you could take coming out of high school. You don't have to go straight to college. You don't have to go straight to the military. You could travel the world and just like bounce from city to city.
But I feel like that's looked down on if you don't go to college.
Yeah, but it's like as long as like
you try to apply for a job and you're with someone who does have just an associate's degree, they're gonna look that much better because they took the traditional route. They went to college.
Yeah, and it's like, so I feel like everybody in a way, like no matter like how long it takes you, they always end up going back to college. Because like for my dad, he finally decided to go to college. The man's like 52, but he finally decided, he was like, if my daughters could go, I want to like make them proud in a sense. I'm gonna go back because I'm gonna see how better their future is gonna be. So I feel like no matter what route you take, at the end of the day, you're probably most likely going to end up turning back to getting an education just because of the way society's set up and just to keep up with everybody else, because it's a race and you want to be able to have the same thing that other people have. But if you're happy with yourself and if you're happy in where you're at in life, then don't worry about getting an education. If you're happy with like the choices that you made, then you good, then you're set, because at the end of the day, you're living with yourself. You're with yourself. If you're okay with yourself, then you won at the game of life.
But like, isn't that like our biggest frustration though? Is like, if we don't go to college, we're deemed as a failure. We're deemed as like, oh, you're a bum. Like you're not gonna make it out in life. And like the support you had growing like as a senior is like, oh yeah, you guys are going. But once you like say that, I'm not college bound, you kind of notice the way people treat you differently. It's like,
people
They
are
look
gonna-
at you differently.
yeah,
They're gonna be
they
like,
look at
oh.
you
They look at
differently.
you very
Okay.
differently.
And it's
when
not
you
even
say
just
you're
like
going to the
teachers,
Navy.
it's like your friends and like family members too. So that's why we gotta kind of keep this to ourselves. Like even with our college, it's like it's still not like a real thing. So I'm just saying I want to go to art college, honestly, but I don't think it's that serious to me because as an artist, I feel like I can make it like a different routes. But like it's frustrating because I have to say I gotta go to art college. I gotta show people that I'm applying to. But in my mind, it's not that big of a deal for me.
School. I mean, even though after all I say, school should still push. School should push college.
Definitely.
Because it is the traditional route. It is the route that will probably help you in the long run. Say if you don't know what you're gonna do. For a lot of the kids who are gonna go to college, like why not just push that?
Like I had something to say. Like my dad, he went to college. He went to 2 good colleges, and he like did business and like he had something to show for it. He's doing really good right now and stuff like that. I for sure don't want to get into business like that, like how he's doing business. Like business is cool, but I want to more like, because everything in life is a challenge. Everything, like even if you do like get a degree in like writing, like book writing, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to like do really good. You're challenging yourself every day, and like everything is like it's a competition. Really, that's what I meant to say. Because like with me and Emily, we're artists, blah blah blah. People are also gonna want to have your job. People are gonna want to have your job, your job, your job. Everyone's gonna want a job, just in general. So might as well just go full out for the job that you really want instead of just going for a job that someone else is trying to get that they might love. So it's like, all right, you can have that job. I'm gonna try to go for my job that I love.
It's something we're passionate about.
Because I want to live the rest of my life knowing that I'm happy with the job that I love. So, yeah.
That's real. Yeah, so I definitely hear all of your points on like schools kind of pushing different options. So whether it's the military, whether it's art school, whether it's like career tech programs, whether it's like cooking, all of those different things, like I think schools for sure need to push more than just college, because I do agree with all of you that if you don't pursue college, that traditional route, that oftentimes you feel stigmatized. You feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. There we go. Or I'm not worthy of their time right now because it's college app season.
And that's what they do. They push you to the side. Like, there's been a couple of times where I'm trying to figure out how I can join the Navy. They were like, well, we got to deal with the kids who are going to college. Well, damn, I'm still a student. I'm still trying to get my education. I'm trying to get out of here too. And that's like, they kind of just push you to the side, and you're just there for yourself.
Yeah, and I think even as like a high school counselor, I'm taking notes right now, like, oh, what do I need to learn right now, and how I'm pushing college on students, and what else? What are my other alternatives that I can help students with other options? So yeah, all of you had really good points on post-secondary options, not just being college, not just being higher education. And then for folks who do want to go to college, like Reggie, I know you were pushing for college, definitely feel you on that. And thank you all for your input, and I appreciate you all and value your time being here. And that concludes our segment for today. Thank you so much to our seniors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Jeff, we brought students on the show to give us their take, and they had a lot to say.
Yeah.
I can't say that I agree with everything that they shared about their perceptions of college and the importance of going to college and what have you. But, when I was a teenager, I had some very similar views to what they expressed. But, over time, and especially working in education, my views have, of course, evolved quite a bit. And we actually addressed this issue of college access back in episode 3 from season 1. And we dove into the research, and we brought 2 experts on this topic onto the show. So go back to episode 3, season 1, to learn more about college access and where we stand on it. But for now, it's time for Class Dismissed, which is a segment where we shout out people doing great work in education. Jeff, what do we have today?
Well, Manuel, I'm excited because we have, I think, an unlikely hero in education to shout out today, that being the legendary heavy metal band Metallica. Right?
Yeah,
Who would have thought? So turns out at the very end of 2018, Metallica through their foundation called All Within My Hands, gave out 10 $100,000 gifts to 10 different community colleges across the country. Now, these were community colleges that were right along or right near stops on their most recent tour. And these community colleges represent a broad swath of America. So we're talking about the Community College of Baltimore in Baltimore, Maryland, and also places like North Idaho College, which is in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. That's kind of northwestern Idaho, not too far away from the Spokane, Washington area, right? So gifts given out across the country, and community colleges often don't get a lot of love, right? People kind of sometimes look down upon them, or we treat them as sort of the stepchildren of our higher education system. And those politics aside, community colleges across the country, and these 10 that Metallica gave to, are some of the most diverse higher education institutions in our country. They serve, immigrant populations. They serve working adults. They serve first-generation students. They serve a lot of our low-income communities. They serve folks who maybe, because of economic changes, have had to get second careers and go back and get additional training. So they fulfill a very important role in our system of education. And it's great to see, even from perhaps an unlikely source, some investment and some shining of a light on some of the great institutions of higher ed across our country and among the ranks of our community colleges. So shout out to Metallica. Appreciate the love to our community colleges, and keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Metallica. All right.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So that about does it for this episode of All of the Above. Now, remember to look underneath this video in the About section. We have links to all of our different sites and links to our podcast for those of you that want to listen to the next episode on the go. And if you haven't already, please remember to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And thank you very much. We'll see you next time.